Hey, all right, we're back. Jack of all trades, we got another NFL episode in store for you guys today. We're joined with Jack Newman here. If you haven't gone back and checked out our previous episodes on doing some NFL analysis, it might be helpful to do so, where you can find out where Jack is getting his numbers from for his model, and take a look at how we're coming up with some of the information that we're coming up with. But Jack, NFL's underway. We had the first game last night. You know, Chiefs handled them pretty well. But we want to take a look now at the NFC North matchups for this upcoming weekend, Packers and Vikings and the Bears and Lions. And I know that from the previous episode, you're able to take and look each game and do some analysis that way, right?
Right. Yeah, let me remember to share my screen here and get that going. Yeah, so the main analysis that I want to talk about is like especially early in the season is more data driven, but and a lot of that is models that kind of take off from last year, and some of these models will do little tweaks for big personnel changes. So you'll see teams that have either big guys like Roethlisberger come back from injury, or Matt Stafford in this case. We're doing NFC North. Him coming back from injury, that'll boost that team based, compared to their maybe their analytical where they left off last year. Like Detroit was one of the worst teams in the NFL at the end of last year, but most people have them bumped up a little higher. Now, that's even with those adjustments. I'm not in love with like my model where I have these values. So I have a kind of a conglomeration of models and different things. And then I make some of these adjustments too, based on some player, ins and outs, newcomers, big losses, key additions, you see all out of that, but I don't want to make too much out of that. But I think the most useful tool, especially in week one, but as the season goes on, a great way to analyze it is according to point spreads and Vegas odds. So I don't, again, I don't advocate trying to make a living doing this, but as a fan, you can get a logical expectation of your team. That's pretty important. Anything in life, managing your expectations. You're not going to have all this disappointment if you overinflate your team. Like if you're a Packer fan and your team won 13 games last year, and if you're seeing people pick them to win 9-10 games, and you're throwing your hands up and being like, well, what the heck, we won 13, we should win 14, or let's do 13 again. We got most of the same players, same coaches. It's like you're setting yourself up for failure, because they're not likely to win 13 games. They're not likely to win 11 games. So when I jump into this, like I'll look at the Bears-Lions game, and the Lions are a 3-point favorite, and that ought to tell you something. That ought to tell you, if you're a Bear fan and I hear a lot of this week, and you're saying like, oh, Mitch has good games against the Lions. We beat the Lions, 5 times in a row, 5 out of 6, 4 in a row. Like, this will be a win. It's like, all right, you're really setting yourself up for failure, because they're likely to lose, according to this. And, there's real money on the line here. There's a lot of eyeballs putting these together. So a couple of ways I would look at this is like, if I took a model and if I want to use the line as 3, and here you have a little money difference. So it's really less than 3, because Detroit, you get even money, and Chicago, you have to give 120. So it's not quite 3, so if you were to go in here, and so you'd put, like, if Detroit wins, you win 10. If Detroit loses, you lose $10. It's even odds. But if you're on the Chicago side of it, if you win, you win 10. But if you lose 12, right? So if I do that, and then I put the line at 3. I've got
Real quick question here.
yeah. Sorry.
Are you the Garen's numbers on this one, or are these your adjusted ones?
No. Well, what I was gonna do was do kind of walk through an adjusted one here first.
Okay.
I mean, I could walk through. Let's walk through Sagarin's ratings, I guess. I don't have it up, so where am I at? I'm just clicking.
Well, it's interesting. Like the Lions as a 3-point home favorite, home field advantage. The teams are pretty even up, but I'll let you continue.
Well, right. So what makes it even more confusing, and a lot of this I'm using the lines for too, is to kind of parse out what is home field advantage with limited or no fans, but there is noise. When are they going to play the noise? How's it going to be? Who the heck knows at this point? But if I go to like my model from last year, I got Chicago as a 22.3, and I got Detroit as a 19.5. And so let's say if I allow 3 for home field, that just evens them up. But then you got to ask yourself, like, what is Matt Stafford worth? Like what is he worth? And then, of course, there's things like injuries and stuff like that go into it for this week. And it's the first week, and everything's kind of conglomerated. Or I'm using a stupid word there, but it's everything's uncertain. There's a lot of uncertainty. So for me, the one thing I would do, I don't have like an opinion here. So if the line's 3, how about we just set the differential between these two teams at 3? So I don't know if you can see here, I've got Detroit at 25.15 and the Bears at 22.15. Now, that's similar to what the Bears were on mine. My numbers just trend a little higher than Sagarin's, but it's really not that important because it'll come out fairly similar. Just the scores will be just a little bit higher on mine, and we can adjust that. We can adjust those down or up based on if we were looking at Vegas. If Vegas had a real high over under, it might change. Anyway, so let's just run this because I set it at 3, so it's like it's not a mystery that it's going to be 50-50. So in this case, since I set it at 3, it's 50-50, but the money, you're far worse. You're losing more money on Detroit here as the home team, which that's a little bit. Let's run it again and see if it comes out the same. I'm doing a -12. I think I have this flipped. Sorry.
It's all good.
Well, that's the thing. When you see a 50% cover, the money should be in favor of the team you're getting odds for. But anyway, so that changes that a little bit, but that's not accurate. So let's go to well, part of the problem is that if Detroit's not a full 3-point favorite, and the implication is by the line, the implication is Detroit's a 2.8-point favorite. So if we go back here, let's figure this out. So if we go 2.8, we got to give Chicago 0.2. I didn't mean to get down this minutia here, but
yeah.
But here we are.
Hey.
And this actually should have been the same. One more. What I'm trying to get here, the biggest thing I'm trying to accomplish here is like and here's where you get it. So it's like if you set it there, but you're paying if you run the spread at 3 and then you're paying odds, then it doesn't take, it takes less advantage, for your team to come out ahead, right? So it's like if a 3-point differential implies a 59.8% spread, but a 2.8 implies a 59. So every point kind of implies a different chance of winning. That's kind of what I'm getting at here. As far as if that hits perfectly, then the money should be even on both sides. So by setting on my model, by setting the difference between the two teams at 3, I get 59%. If I set it at 2.8, I get less than that. Now let's set it at set it at 1 point, right? So if you say if Chicago was a 1-point underdog, and I'm just setting the difference at 1, and I know this is more, general analysis. You know what I mean? So it's not like this isn't specific to the Bears Lions, and I'm trying to get a little groundwork. So see, if I set it at 1, then the 1-point favorite wins 51.9% of the time. And so to me, that's one of the more useful things is to look at this line and say Detroit's favored by 3 over Chicago. And then the way I would back into if we wanted to get into some specifics, I would say, well, look, at the end of last year and into this year, Detroit should be 3 points worse. And with home field, depending on what that is, shouldn't the game be a pick'em? Shouldn't it be a pick'em? And so why isn't it a pick'em? And to me, a big part of that's Stafford, right? Stafford, and nobody was thrilled with what the Bears did in the offseason, I don't think. I mean, with Jimmy Graham and Nick Foles, and I just think as a general public, and I'm on this same side, as I think what the Bears did was useless. Like they're not even playing Nick Foles. They turned down Mitch Trubisky's 5-year option. Well, now he's starting over the guy they committed $21 million to, and people, it just doesn't look. It looks good. Their starting running back is injured. Khalil Mack's limited in practice. Robert Quinn didn't practice. So there's a lot of injury questions with the Bears. So these are the things that I'm not sitting here running my original model and saying, oh my gosh, it should be a pick'em, and the Bears are getting 3, so I'm betting it. Oh yeah, that's way wrong. This should be a pick'em. You'd be crazy not to bet the Bears or whatever along that analysis. Like I look at it like, what changed? Why is Detroit 3? Now, if I could sit there and go through all the little details and nitpick it and not come up with reasons that the line went in Detroit's favor, then I might say, hey, people are stupid. You should maybe bet this, or you should discount the line. I'm right. Vegas is wrong. I just think it's a stretch to try to do that. That you're better off. Like, well, why exactly is that? And I think the combination of the Bears, because if you follow over-unders that we talked about before, also the Bears have declined, since the lines came out. They came out at 8.5, and now it's like -200 to bet the under. So they're way below 8.5. They're down to like a 7 over-under, which is pretty bad. So that's kind of what I see in this game. I see Detroit being likely to win the game, and I'm fairly comfortable with the 59%. Like I'm not into making picks. You know what I mean? Like it's I'm gonna put similar to what 538 does. If you go look at their weekly game by game, and you go on there, and there's why don't I just pop it up here?
Yeah, there you go.
This is a really cool thing, actually, and You go on 538, you hit games. I guess I don't understand why this isn't. This is 2019. I figured it would take me to here 2020, right? So if you went into their Texans game last night, they had a 75% chance. They had a 7.5 point spread. We know the line was 9.5 or something going off. So you get these implications, and that's like 538 here has the Bears as a 1.5 point favorite to win 56% of the time. Now, again, I don't look at that and say, "Oh my gosh, Vegas is wrong. Run and bet the Bears." I just don't. I say what's changed, and then how does that look? And this early in the season, I'm inclined to kind of go like, well, who knows? To be honest with you, I look at all these, but what's okay? So here's their prediction game. I don't see that they have it up. They used to have a game that says, "Can you outsmart our forecast?" And then you go in and you could slide, you could change, you could predict at 58% for the Bears or 62% for the Bears. But I wonder if he's not doing it this year. Maybe not enough people did it. I really liked it, but this just gives you, this is their quarterback adjusted, and there's a whole thing with that. Here's their traditional one, which doesn't change by much. It shockingly helps the Vikings a little bit when I saw a thing today that they put a quarterback adjustment for each team because they want to be able to do it if a guy gets hurt. If Mahomes goes down, they don't want to have a 9-point line when it's way off. So they use like a modified QBR number where they take like the last 10 games of the quarterback's QBR, and they still have the Bears at one. They have them 1.5 and 2, so they're pretty similar. I think a team that would show a jump would be a team like you'd think maybe the Lions, but apparently not. And then it gave the Lions a 0.5 point. Steelers is a team I was thinking of, right? So, but they do so much regression. So Steelers -2 with the quarterback, or without the quarterback. With the quarterback, Steelers -5. So that's pretty big, especially since it's regressed. Anyway, I think I'm kind of going off on a tangent here with this, but I'm basically trying to the analysis that I'm doing is basically like, what are the lines telling me? That to me, that's a signal. That's what money does, is it signals like value. And so if people are willing to put money on it, they think there's some value in this, and they're signaling with their money, here's what we think. And that's the whole collective of professional gamblers, odds makers, football fans, degenerate gamblers, the whole shooting match. When they all get together, what they're coming up with is Detroit -3. And
Right.
so
It's good to show it on there the way you just showed it, because we obviously understand the quarterback position it's a huge. I mean, your quarterback is it's going to make your team go. And then now to see Matthew Stafford back, or getting him back, and then knowing the Bears are going to Trubisky, I could see the line movement, acting the way it does. I like to take a look at line movements and then public money and see why the line moved opposite of where all the money seems to be going. Just as just Scott Van Pelt, I believe, has that.
Right. It's the smart money type thing.
Smart money, right? But another good matchup here, the Vikings and Packers. We got another a duo of quarterbacks here that lead the way for them. Kirk Cousins, I don't know, I'm a big fan. I like his consistency, and Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. So let's switch this over and get into the Vikings Packers matchup for this weekend, and see what you come up with.
So if I go to the Vikings game, pull that up, and then so what I did here is I set the Vikings 2.5 to start with. So you run that, And this is just a look at like winning percentage. And we can, so it gives the Vikings a 57.4% chance of winning. And that's with the line coming in like covering 50% of the time. So that's the implication, the implication uh, that that line implies. And like I said before, is like these are the collective minds. And one thing that I find interesting is like, let's say we use a Sagarin model this time for the Vikings. And what we would do is, if I punch that up, Sagarin uses a home field advantage of 2.49. And Sagarin Vikings is 21.17. These are make lower scores, but it doesn't really change much. And then for Green Bay, he has a 20.59. Right, so then we just file it and save it, and we run it. Now, what that's going to do is it's going to, the Vikings are probably going to cover, so I didn't do this. I got to do the 2.49, excuse me. So if I take 2.49, add it to the Vikings, that's 3 and, 66. 3.66. Now I'll save it. Now, with that, it should favor the Vikings because now we have a wider spread than we had when we ran it the first time. And there you go. The Vikings, instead of winning 57.4, they win 60.7. They cover at a 52.3, which is interesting about that to me is it doesn't help them make any money.
Yeah.
Because the Vikings, you still lose money at 52.3. There it is, folks. Like you need a significant edge because that is it's an over 3 points, so it's over a half-point edge that you're getting in theory, right? That you're saying like I'm giving 2.5, and I have a team that's 3.1 better or three points better, so I'm getting a half point, but I'm still a loser because of the edge I'm giving Vegas. So there's so much room there for them to get by. And what I would also look at that is it would be like, well, where did that half point come from? And if you're following what's happened recently is Danielle Hunter wasn't practicing for the last 3 weeks. And there was a lot of speculation and a lot of people were speculating he'd be back. Oh, he'll be back next week. He'll be back next week. And he wasn't. And sometime last week, I watched that line go from 3 to 2.5. And I figured this is where Vegas can give you kind of a signal of what's really out there. Is like, that could be bad news. Even though they added Ngakoue, which was a bonus, the line went down. And really the only thing changed was what? Well, Hunter didn't play. And then and the reason I'm confident that that's what it was a week ago was when they announced it officially 2 days ago that he was going on IR and would miss 3 weeks, the line didn't change. It was 2.5 on Monday. It was 2.5 on Tuesday. And when they announced it on Wednesday that he's on IR and he's out, he didn't practice, still 2.5. So there's people out there that are more in tune to what's going on, and the chances that you're going to get the jump on them is not very good because they knew Hunter, or they priced in Hunter being out 8 days ago. So in that respect, it's like I think the only smart way to go about this is to actually honor that 2.5 point spread if you are trying to get the proper expectation. So if you're a Viking fan and you're like, oh, Hunter's out, we're screwed. Well, no, you got a 58% chance to win, period. According to me, the best way to look at it, the smartest way to look at it, the way that you're going to be right the most often. And if you can make a bunch of predictions, and if they're straying away from these numbers over time, you're going to be wrong more than you're going to be right. If you stick with these numbers, if I stick with these percentages and I go against a guy that's just like Viking fan, he's like, they're going to win, they're 80%, and then it's going to be easy to be right over the long haul over a person like that. And Twitter and the internet's just full of people that want to just make these bold predictions. I was listening to a podcast about the Steelers, and the guy's like, they're going to go 12-4 and go to the AFC title game. And it's like, all right. All you have to do is just say it, and then if he's wrong, you'll never hear from him again. But if he's right, it's going to be like, oh, look at me. Everyone was saying, everyone wasn't confident in my Steelers, and the over-under was 9.5, but I said 12, and look, they won 12. Like, the bottom line is the Steelers are 9.5 over-under in Vegas. If you predict 12, it's preposterous.
Yeah, you're really going to go out on.
Yeah, I mean, it could happen, but it's preposterous. But that's just, again, I know I'm going to sound like a broken record on this, but the brand of Jack of all trades is based off a history of trading, and we traded for years off of theoretical pricing models, right? So the only way you were going to be successful is to have an idea of what things were actually worth. And if you lied to yourself, you were setting yourself up for losing money. If you do this as a fan and you lie to yourself, you're just setting yourself up for misery. You really are. It's like, if I'm a Viking fan, I gotta come to terms with they're only 58% likely to win on Sunday, which leaves 42% chance that they're going to lose. That's a really good chance, 42%. If you had a 420 hitter in baseball, which we haven't had ever, what are the chances of him getting a hit? He's the best hitter in the history of the game. Like, that's 42%. Happens a lot.
Absolutely, and it winning 10 games in the NFL season is actually very good. It's not Super Bowl or bust like everybody wants to say. That's just absurd in my opinion, because it's just not easy to win a Super Bowl. Come on, be realistic. So it should be a very entertaining game. Vikings, Packers, Bears and Lions should be a close one as well. We just wanted to show you our analysis. Thank you, Jack, for putting this up here so we could all take a look at what you're looking at. And we're going to do some more NFL analysis on the other games upcoming this weekend. So thank you for tuning in. If you want to hit Jack up on Twitter, he's at Jack Viking on Twitter. That's a good place to get banter back and forth with him. Yes, did you have something to add?
No, I was saying bring it on Twitter. Let's have some fun.
You can also feel free to like, comment, subscribe down below. That way you'll get notifications on when our next episode's coming out. Until then, thank you for tuning in, and be sure to tune in next time on Jack of All Trades.